Hey everybody, Fishman here. Welcome to another video. My apologies in advance, but this is going to be a bit of a long one. Actually, it's going to be almost twice as long as my normal videos. But seeing how I had shown you some ideas I'm tinkering with for this build, stuff that would normally not even make it into a video, I thought I would go through at least some of the processes by which I eliminate some of them. Obviously not all of them, because this video is going to be long enough, and I certainly didn't want to make this into a series. But I want to show you at least a few of the things I go through to get rid of the ones that aren't going to work. So my first step, whenever I'm making any kind of design for a filter, is do the obvious, easy, no-brainer ones. So cutting down the pipe on the pump so that this will be under 18 inches was the first one. Obviously, it needs to be done. And the second thing is to weld the bottom on. Now, this is the point in the filter where there's the most forces. The pump's going to hook on here. And if any of you have ever had a diatom filter and had one of the membranes go and had diatom powder, pumped into your aquarium, you'll understand why this needs to be done. I mean, this could easily pop off with the kinds of torque that's going to be on this as I'm moving it around and trying to get it in proper place in the aquarium. And to have that blow out and, like I said, just put diatom everywhere in the tank, it is a big mess. So this needs to be welded. And this is actually where I made not a big mistake, but it's something I should have spotted. If you look at the edge of this pipe, right now, as you can see it there, look into the upper right, right at the very top of the screen, you'll see those are the feeding rings. Those are acrylic. And for some reason, as I was building this, I didn't clue in. This is not acrylic. This is Lexan. It is still a polycarbonate, so it will weld, but it's not a pretty weld. It's actually really difficult to weld properly with methylene chloride, and it turns out to be kind of an ugly, gloppy mess in the bottom of this. But it doesn't really matter. It will hold, and that's all the important bit in this, because as you remember from the last video, this is going to be a submersible build, so it doesn't have to even be watertight. It just has to hold together. So, but that's one of those things that I should have spotted, especially because as you see I'm turning it here. I mean, this is extruded, but extruded Lexan has more of a wobble to it. And you can see as I'm trying to weld this, I'm trying to get it to wick properly, and it just doesn't want to cooperate. I mean, I should have spotted that, and if not, I should have spotted the color. But anyway, it's not a big deal, and I certainly didn't want to go through the process of turning down all new wheels and everything and fitting it to a new piece of acrylic. It's not that important. So as you remember from the last video, I wanted the top to be friction fit. So the easiest way of doing that is to put it right back onto the arbor where I turned it down. So that will hold the two rings perfectly centered on each other. And then it's just a simple matter of wicking in some methylene chloride. It's not really, as you can see it going here, it will not go all the way through, but it's not really necessary. This is just a simple tack weld would have been enough, because I just want to hold them in place. But I made sure it was good and strong, and I am going to put this on the lathe anyway in a few minutes for another reason, but it will work. That's all that really matters. So I'm going to pull this off now, and if you remember when I was a few seconds ago when I was gluing the bottom on, you'll notice that I turned it almost perpendicular to the line of the tube, because that way as you feed the ring in, it's nice and round, obviously, and it's easy to wiggle it into place and then turn it so that it is in the position it needs to be in. Watch as I try to put this on. You'll see here in a few seconds. I can't do that because it's now got a part that doesn't fit inside here, and this is a friction fit. And you'll see I'm going to fiddle with it here for a few minutes. It won't go on. It's not a big deal, but it is, again, one of the things that you need to work through as you're building these things. So I'm going to do is I will put this on the lathe and first off, the easiest thing to do is put a little bit of a bevel on the very lip of it. It's a bit of a tricky maneuver, but it's not too hard to do. The other thing I want to do is make it just ever so slightly less of a friction fit. And that is the trickiest part to do, because if you've ever put things on a lathe, taken them off and put it back on, it is very difficult to get it in the exact same position as you had it before. So that's going to go on the lathe. And the other thing, of course, that I need to do is I'm going to take the deflector, and that needs to be rounded off as well, because I've welded that in place. I didn't bother recording that. It's just a straightforward gloppy mess kind of thing as you do put the PVC glue on it. So for some reason, I'm not sure why, I decided to spend a little bit more time on this than I should have, I guess. I guess I had a bit more time to spare. But also the other thing is, of course, I don't get to turn down PVC very often, and I wanted to see pretty much what the limits were. This is not a hard thing to replace if I put too much of a force on it. So I'm going to turn this down. The only problem I found with it is, even compared to acrylic, turning down PVC, there's no resistance. You can't feel it being turned down, because it doesn't put enough of a force on anything, so you even notice, like I said, you even notice anything at all being done. You have to actually just watch it, because you can't feel a thing. I mean, it is meant for turning down metal, not for turning down plastic. So I'm going to turn this down to round. For some reason, I wanted to take it down as close as I could get it. Again, not even remotely necessary. I could have stopped it right here. And the other thing I want to do, this is a 1/4 inch cap on the bottom. I decided to take it down to 1/8, again, for no reason other than just to put, well, learn a little bit of detail on this, I suppose, and obviously no reason to bevel it either. But anyway, I just wanted to dress this up a little bit better. The funny thing is I didn't really go the whole way. I could have actually got rid of the little bit of roughness that you'll see here shortly. There you go, right there where the glue is. But again, like I said, no reason for this at all. So I did at least stop from making it look perfect, because no one's ever going to see that. It's going to be right at the bottom of the filter. Now this is the tricky bit. This is probably the hardest part of all this turning, and it has to be done really, really slowly and gently, because you're not entirely certain. I mean, I put it on the arbor to start off with, but you're not sure if it is is seated perfectly properly when you do it. So you have to approach it really slowly, just in case it is not lined up the way it should be. But as you look at this, there is going to be ever so slight an amount of material coming off of here. It is not really anything that you can notice, to tell you the truth, but my lathe goes down to 1/1000 of an inch, but I'm not even going a full 1 thou. I'm going probably by the end of this about half of that. But I do, like I said, I wanted that friction fit to remain, and there you go. That's all the way around several times, and that is all I'm taking off. And again, like I said, I don't want this to just be a sloppy fit in the end. I want it to hold on as properly as possible, because hopefully it'll end up being fairly close to watertight. So that's that. And then the other thing I decided to do, for some silly reason, I didn't record this one. I am going to show you one a little later on. I decided to see if I can do a fog, like a nice sanded finish to this, but do it on a lathe. I don't normally do that, so that's going to come up here in a little bit. So as you can see, this is still a nice tight fit. I didn't take too much off of it, and now it's just a simple matter of pulling that off, and you'll see the foggy, like the kind of a frosted look to it in a second here when I take this off and try to put it on. You can see it on the right now. I do like that a little bit, because what it does is it hides the lack of wicking. I haven't done the top yet. I'm going to actually show you a little clip in a few minutes of doing that part as well. It does, like I said, that wicking isn't 100% all the way through, and you can see it a little bit as I'm turning it here, because this is the clear side, and I thought maybe I'll give that a try and do it the other side as well. But first, we have to see that it goes on properly, and you see with a bit of a bevel and that slight reduction in the diameter of it, it now fits really nicely. It can actually go on, and this is me trying to pull it off. And that's a good fit. I mean, this is the best I can get. And I suspect if I had used an acrylic pipe on this instead of Lexan, Lexan's, like I said, I got a little bit more of a variation in its diameter. I think it probably would have been even a better fit. But then again, that's like I said, this is just testing things out. And like I said, most of this stuff I wouldn't even get to show you. So I thought like I said, I would show some of this detail. So there you go. This is how it fits, and as you can see, it's nice and snug. Now, the other thing I'm not doing yet at this point is I'm not going to silicone the end fittings on. I mean, that is a point of, well, I mean, in case I want to change things, there's no point in making, like I said, too much of a goopy mess with silicone and all that sort of stuff. So that is something I'll leave for later, or actually not even bother. As I said before, this is going to be in an aquarium, so it's really not necessary at all. This is just, like I said, this is going to be something that can leak as much as it wants, as long as the diatom powder stays where it needs to be. So this is, for some reason I decided to record this. I am just going to put that frosted look on the top of this. The hard part of this, of course, is making sure it's aligned properly so I don't end up ruining the lid. And the other thing, of course, is just do a light touch and then make sure it is even all the way around. And then I am only going to take off 1/1000th of an inch off the thickness of this. And believe it or not, it does turn out to be a fair amount of material, but I'm taking 1/1000th of an inch off, I mean, the entire thing from one end to the other. But anyway, it's just something I wanted to try out. And again, as I said, normally I wouldn't even bother showing this to you guys because it has really nothing to do with the function of the filter. It's just something of the aesthetics, and a lot of the stuff I do on these test build things where I'm just trying stuff out, I am just hopefully, you know, building skills, I guess you could call it, techniques for future builds in case I do need to actually put frosted coating on something to hide something, or just to make something look a little bit better. So that's 1/1000th off, and I'm going to use the other half now, and I'm going to go, you'll notice one thing I'll do is I'll go back and forth a fair number of times when I'm machining acrylic, because even at this RPM, you can see there, this is a very sharp bit too, it's brand new, it is melting the outside of it just ever so much, and that is obviously something that will cause a bit of roughage on the surface. And once that's removed, and I haven't even moved the tool post at all, this is just taking that roughage off now. And I'll go back and forth, I think 1 or 2 more times here, just to get that down into as smooth as possible. It is not as smooth as if I just took like a 400 grit paper and did it. But it does end up giving a really nice surface to it in the sense of it is obviously perfectly parallel and evenly removed. So there you go. That's, for some reason, like I said, I wanted to show you that, guys. This is the last pass here. Let me know what you think, if you think it looks any better than the clear. I think it does hide the little bit of the wicking that isn't quite uniform when you're trying to wick through that much material. But again, like I said, none of this matters at all because it has nothing to do with the function of the filter. It is just something I wanted to try out. So there you go. I need to rub off the dirt on the backside, but it does hide that, like I said, that wicking a little bit. You can still see it if you catch the light just the right way, but if you're just looking at it, I think it looks better, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. Anyway, let's get on to putting this filter together finally. So the next step is to take all these bits and pieces and make sure they fit properly and build a filter. Now, one of the things about when you try to put a narrow tube filter like this together, my hand doesn't fit into this thing. So there are a few tricks you can do, and this is one of them for undoing a fitting. Just stick a pipe in it, and that becomes pretty much a wrench for you, and you pull it off like that, And that allows me to put in the deflector, which is there. And then, of course, because this is a 1/2-inch PVC pipe, I can use 2 fittings, a male and a female, just screw them together and then stick them on that pipe. And then that allows me to obviously, go on to the fitting now, and I can put it back on. Again, stuff that I would normally not bother showing you, but again, this is that kind of video. So I'll just tighten this on now, and it's not hard to do. And again, it's just something that, like I said, I wouldn't normally bother showing you. And the nice thing about it though is you can get really tight with this, and if, like in this particular case, I didn't quite get where I wanted to, you can just put it right back on and tighten it down more. And that's it. Just push a little harder, and there you go. And as long as you take it off in a clockwise direction, you won't loosen it. And there we go. Enough of that silliness. Let's get on to putting this together. So the lid's all frosted, and just going to screw it on. Again, I'm not siliconing any of this, again, because it doesn't matter, but also because if I change my mind on any of this particular ability, because I haven't plugged this in yet, things may need to change, and I don't want to, and if I have to take this off, have to clean off excess silicone, all that sort of stuff. So, and also I don't have to wait for it to cure. So there we go. That is, believe it or not, a finished Diatom filter. And now it's just a simple matter of putting the pump on and putting the deflector on the top on, and then that's it. This is a matter of putting it in an aquarium. Now for this first test, I am not going to leave the sponge on. Oh, here you go. It's under 18 inches. That's all that really matters. So I'm not going to put the sponge on in that pipe because I don't want it to take any of the credit for how this filter works. So they're going to, like I said, this is just a test. It's going to go in an aquarium, actually a fairly clean aquarium, so it's not going to really take out that much. But again, like I said, I want to make sure this is just fully the Diatom filter doing its job. Now, I actually wish I had built this first, to tell you the truth, because the funny thing about Diatom filters is it has absolutely nothing to do with the size of the chamber used. I chose that chamber size initially simply because that was the chamber size of Diatom filters I had worked with when I worked in the pet store. And I was like, okay, that's the size they need to be, so I'll make it that big. This one here, with the smaller tube, actually works just as well as the big one, because the only part that does any filtering is that mesh, and then once that gets coated with Diatom powder, it is identical in filtering capacity to the larger one, which is kind of funky in a way, I suppose, but definitely true. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to fast forward the rest of this because this is getting really stupid long, and I'm going to put the Diatom powder in. I'm going to show you how that all coats, and then I'm going to let this run. The second to final clip is, well, first off, I'm going to show you what the Diatom powder looks like initially once this gets coated. And then I'm going to show you, the next clip's going to be an hour later, and you'll see how much it takes out in that short period of time. And this is a clean aquarium. I mean, it has a few catfish in it, but it's brand new. I only set these up a little while ago. But as a water polisher and removing ick and free-floating algae and all that sort of stuff, nothing beats a Diatom filter for that. This is as small a particle filter you can get without getting into, super specialty filters you have to, be part of a lab to get probably. But anyway, that's it loaded. And the nice thing about this filter is it's so self-contained that you can just lift it out of, well, actually in this particular case, the loading chamber is my carbon filter. It's already done its job. Hopefully I'll remember to show you the footage for that at some point. And there you go. It just sits on the bottom. And this is actually so much better than the other one. Like I said, I wish I had made it first. Anyway, I will show you a close-up of it now. And this is just going in, and Diatom powder is nice and white. Next clip, oh yeah, by the way, is most of the dripping, believe it or not, is coming from the fitting, but it does leak. And again, it doesn't matter at all. It doesn't spray diatom powder everywhere, and that's all that really matters in this. So, like I said, next clip is going to be an hour later, and you're going to see the bit of dirt that is gathered up out of that really quite clean aquarium. And you can see also that the dripping is slowed down, which means it's just filling up with dirt and diatom powder. But all the joints held, and that's all that really matters. So as always, if you like this style of video, please like and or subscribe, and definitely leave comments about this. I am curious to see what you think of it. And the last clip is going to be when it's, I think, I actually should probably write these down, I suppose, but it was in the evening, so a few hours later at least anyway. And you're going to see the water is going to be as clear can get, really. And that's pretty much the end of this video. Sorry for the length again, but as you can see, the water is perfectly crystal clear now, and the filter is nice and dirty, the way it should be. So there you go. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and bye for now.